Well, hi, Peter and Anthea. Welcome to another episode of Mind the Waves. It's like a fun get together where Steph, Camille, and I, well, sometimes individually, get to meet new people and hear about their experiences and their view about mental health. And so, as professional athletes, well, a former professional athlete, we realize that the mental is as important, and if not more important than the physical well-being of our everyday lives. So we want to share what we've learned and also help everyone live more easily and happier. So welcome, Peter and Anthea again. Peter, UPenn, Anthea, Columbia. Where is your shirt?
Oh, I left it at in New York.
I see. So, why don't you guys give us a little bit introduction background of like who you are, like your relationship with Hong Kong? You guys are very multicultural, so go at it.
I'll start. So, I'm Peter. I was born in Singapore, and I moved to Hong Kong when I was one. And I lived in Hong Kong throughout my whole life, from when I was 1 to 18. And I went to Singapore International School. After I finished high school, I did 2 years in the Singaporean military. So when I was 18 to 20, I was in the military. And after the military, it was COVID, so I came back to Hong Kong and started my freshman year at Penn while in Hong Kong, with the time differences and everything. And yeah, I'm a rising senior, so I've had 2 years at Penn on campus, and it's been amazing. I'm back for the summer, so it's really nice to be back.
Amazing. That's great. Well, I'm sorry you have to go through freshman year COVID and remote, but look at you now. You're a rising senior. Time flies.
It's fine. It was an experience. It was an experience.
Very cool. How about you, Anthea? I know you are we're in Beijing and in Hong Kong, so yeah, tell us about you.
Yeah, I was also born in Hong Kong, and then when I was 2, my family moved to China, and then that's where I learned how to swim. I started swimming when I was 2 in Shanghai, and then we moved to Beijing, and then I guess like 2 years before the end of my high school career, I moved back to Hong Kong because I kept on traveling back and forth to race anyways from Beijing and Hong Kong, and finished my high school in Hong Kong at HKIS at the Hong Kong International School, where you're from.
Yeah, yes.
And then now I'm a rising junior at Columbia.
Wow, amazing. So it seems like you both are still student athletes, still in the grind of it. Yeah, how is that? Like, how is being a student athlete in 2 top US schools and with your rigorous academics?
So I might have like a alternative perspective. I know you talked to Katie before, and she goes to Michigan, and you went to Michigan. But I guess swimming at an Ivy League has its perks. Like the people around you are so incredible in everything they do, and you realize like for the better, like there's more to life in college than just swimming and school. There's so many things that you can explore. And I guess swimming at an Ivy League is a very like relaxed environment. I'm sure Anthea can agree. Like there's less pressure than if you're at like a Power Five conference. The Ivy League, like most of us know, we're there to get a really good education, and we all love swimming, which is why we still do it. So yeah, it's been a really good experience, really rewarding.
Wow, that's very refreshing to hear. All right. How about like, do you guys ever duel each other? Like see each other at meets?
Yeah, we actually saw each other at our one of our championship meets. That's after Ivy's. I think it was at Navy this year or last year too. But yeah, we see each other if we travel too. I guess like I went to Penn, and I think I saw Peter, but I didn't I didn't say hi just because I was caught up in the race. But yeah, it's fun to be able to see people
Yeah.
like here and there. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds like you were super focused then. Peter will
Just
not
running
distract me. Wow. Okay. Well, so that's amazing, and I'm glad we shared this like U.S. student athlete kind of life uh, together. So jumping straight into it, I know I asked you guys some questions beforehand, just to know you guys more. But I want to start with Anthea. Like, we talked a little bit about like, okay, student athlete and like how different it is like being a student athlete in US versus when you were like growing up in Hong Kong and China. Can you tell a little bit about like what is the difference that you see uh, between those two places? Like not only just like mentally, but like overall, is there like less pressure, more pressure? And Peter, feel free to jump in anytime about that.
I think what was interesting about my experience is that because I went to an international school, and I guess like during that time, HKIS, we had a lot of emphasis on mental health. That's when I got introduced to it, and so it was very involved in both my academic and swimming part of my life at that time when I was in high school. So it wasn't something that I think I neglected as much as school, like local schools who like where they don't really teach about mental health. Um, so I think building off of that, going from that very supportive environment of teaching kids how to take care of their mental health and going into an Ivy League school where, yes, there's a lot of pressure in
Sure.
balancing the academics and swimming. Sometimes you feel like going from such a small, like a smaller environment in Hong Kong to a bigger environment in the States, it could be a little harder to get that supportive, I guess, like supportive community, or it might take a little
Yeah.
time to find the right group of support. But at the end of the day, I feel like just because of the international school system and me training at like a swim club based at that school, they're like the transition between the emphasis on mental health in both Hong Kong and the States, from my experience, wasn't too big. I think it's something that is on the forefront of everybody's minds because at the end of the day, if you want to do well at school or swimming, that's something you really have to take care of.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Um, like maybe my school wasn't as focused on that. I think I really only like I know of the international school culture, and maybe my school was less of that. It was more like a lot of us, a lot of my me and my friends from my school, like really learned about mental health by ourselves, like after we graduated. So it was a bit of like a discovery process, which is why like I'm very thankful for like 2 years in the military, so I had time to like grow before I went to college. So I think that was when I like was introduced to it. It was in the military, which is I think a very weird anecdote to tell. But
Yeah.
also, yeah, in college, it's just like I think Penn is a very like a good place for that. Like our coach is very like is a very good listener, and I feel like there's definitely been like a lot of positive changes in like destigmatizing and like the awareness about like mental health in general.
Okay. Yeah, you were like I'm actually fairly surprised to hear about like a good experience from the military. Well, I haven't heard a lot of stories from the military, but I have friends who like went to this like Korea, South Korea ones and different and yeah, please share a little more. Like what did they do at the military to make you realize that oh like mental health is important?
Oh, okay. I, I think I should have phrased it a bit better. I feel like it was only in the military where I learned the importance of having good
I
mental
see.
health because the military, obviously, like the military isn't like always super easy mentally and physically, and like it really does take a toll on you. I think I went through a little bit of a rough patch in the military, like around 2019, and like that was when I was like, oh, I should take care of my mental health. And I think a lot of people who went through the military felt that like they're like, oh, I've never thought about like my mental health or like my need to take care of it, and I'm like, oh, now I'm in the military. I guess like I'm being exposed to things I haven't done before. It's definitely a learning curve. No matter where you are, it's a learning curve. It just so happened that mine was when I was serving the Singaporean army. But apart from that, like it was a good learning experience. I won't say a good experience.
Yeah, amazing. Wait, I want to rephrase something. You said that when you experience something that you have never experienced, that is when you realize that, ooh, I need to train my mind to adapting that. Is that what you're trying to say? Wow, wow, wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good point and a really like fresh perspective to put a description of like when you realize that mental health is actually important. So that's cool. I have another question for you. As a male, Hong Kong male, Asian, is it hard to talk about your feelings? Is it a sign of, like, oh, like guys can't cry, guys can feel weak? What do you think about that? Like, what is your perspective as a guy, like when you talk about mental health?
That's very true. I feel like sometimes I don't like stereotypes, but like when you live in a society like Hong Kong, where like this is like the stereotype is so true, um, it's really really true. Um, I love my parents, but I don't think I got this from my parents. I don't think I was ever comfortable because of my parents. I think it's more of a personal thing. Again, so I a little bit of context was like my parents were in Hong Kong while I was in the military in Singapore. So I had to do a lot of growing up by myself while in the military, which is why like the 2 years are pretty hard for me. So during those 2 years, I realized like you can't physically bottle everything up. Um, Otherwise, it's just not healthy for you. And I think in terms of like my male friends, like I genuinely tell them like if you ever have anything like you need to talk about, like I'm here. And I have a pretty good sixth sense. Like I can tell when someone's not okay. So like usually when I say that, it's not a question. It's how are you? Like something's on your mind. So there's I think I try to start the conversations as well, and that gets the ball rolling. But you're right. Our society, it's getting better with our generation. People are like noticing that you need to be healthy mentally as well, but still a work in progress. And you're right. Especially in the athletic space, I think we need like male athletes as well that will say, "Oh, I'm like mental health matters and stuff." So it's a
Yes,
good trend,
yes.
but a lot
I
of work
mean,
to be
it's
done.
what Anthea said, right? Like we're all humans, and it doesn't matter your sex at all, or like whatever. Like as long as you're human, we all have those feelings, and we all shouldn't bottle it up.
Exactly.
So that's amazing. Yeah, great. What, like in school, like for both of you, was there something that the schools like do in particular to promote like training our mental or like putting emphasis on mental health um, that you really liked or appreciated?
I think Penn definitely has mental health resources. It's definitely a work in progress. It's really far from perfect, but it's there. I think the biggest takeaway I got in terms of like mental health support at Penn really is like the friends you meet at your school are always going to be there, and that's where like your support system is. Like I wouldn't say like the mental health like facilities at Penn are the best, but just like the community at Penn is so supportive. Faculty, students, like coaches, all amazing. And they're always willing to talk. And I think that's the main takeaway, actually. It's just like the people on campus. I'm sure Anthea agrees with this point as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because what's different about going to school in the States and I guess being a student athlete in high school in Hong Kong is that there's a lot more of people who are being student athletes. So you have a lot more people to connect with who are going through like the exact same thing. Like they know what it feels like to be going to like championship meets while having like five finals at the same time. And so everyone's
Oh,
super supportive. um, yeah, like I just think that like no matter what team you're on, there's always going to be someone in your class or like in the locker room or in the gym who's willing to like listen to you just because they know what you're going through and like they empathize with you.
yeah. I remember being in Michigan and I definitely leaned on my girls a lot. Like having my friends and teammates beside me was, even if you don't realize it, it helps a lot. And so I'm a little jealous you guys are still in college. Like, please enjoy it as much as you can because it's just a great time, like living so close with your friends, right? Um, and so, I mean, Anthea, I know because of what your experience, like being a student athlete and like your background, you started something. Anthea's an entrepreneur. You started something related to mental health, like kind of on campus, right? Or off campus, or you interned. Like, tell us about it. Like, what was it?
So actually during my freshman year in college, I had a really rough time. My first semester, it was just going from my last 2 years of high school being on Zoom and then going full force, like in person, like at college, like being a student athlete at an Ivy League in person was really hard. I feel like I was also taking the hardest classes because I didn't know what to take. And I think by the time I realized that, it was too late to drop out of those classes. And the story is that I had to pass one of my classes to be able to swim the next semester. But I was like, I was failing every single exam. And at that point, I was just really stressed because I guess like I really like swimming and I didn't want to fail that class. And just not being able to understand the course in general put me in a really bad headspace. And I was just doing some searching online, finding, I guess, like mental health resources in the States. And surprisingly, I found a alumni from the Teachers College at Columbia who created a startup for student athletes, trying to basically make a platform like Headspace or Calm, like the apps for student athletes. And so I connected with them and they gave me access to their app for free because at that time it's not for the public yet, right now too, I think. But
can we tell the audience this?
Yeah, for sure. Like right now they just work with schools that partner with them, but they do have an amazing app that if you use it, gives you a really good way to track how you're feeling each day and kind of work on your mood, because based on what you journal about and like what mood you select for the day, they give you resources like meditations or like journaling practices to kind of put yourself in a better headspace. So after using their app for a while, like a month or two, they offered me to do an internship with them last summer. And basically what I did was use my experience as a student athlete and kind of give them advice on how to improve their product and also what else could they do as a company to help student athletes. Because at that time especially, there were a lot of student athletes who were, I guess, like harming themselves, to put it in a less explicit way. And it was a concern to them because the founders themselves used to play sports in college and dropped out because of mental health reasons. So they wanted to kind of make the student athlete experience more enjoyable and take off the pressure that would come like with the mental health issues.
That is very impressive work. Thank you. And I agree. Like it's being a student athlete is very stressful, and there aren't too many easy, or not easy, but like easily accessible resources out there, even though in the US they talk way more about it than, let's say, Hong Kong, you know. But having the right resources and things that can help you would help a lot. And I'm really excited for when is the app launching? Do we need to like promote it here?
I have no idea, actually. I could ask, but I really do hope that something they're able to do is just like help every single student athlete out there. It's definitely something they're trying to achieve, but right now I think the biggest thing we can do in general is just start the conversation, like what you guys are doing. Just starting it, I guess, kind of not really rips the Band-Aid off, but helps with the healing process.
Definitely. Yeah, and there's obviously a lot more to do in this space, but yeah, we're trying slowly to get there. But which is really exciting to hear what you're doing, and I hope student athletes can use it soon. Like, and you mentioned about like Headspace. So Peter, do you know what Headspace is, and like what are you guys' thoughts on like the current existing apps around mental health? Yeah.
You know, like what I really liked over COVID was like, because no one can go. Like,
you like that?
There's a lot more like online. Okay, so one silver lining about COVID was like people started having like online mental health resources, which is really good. I was referred. So one of my friends used therapy online, and she really liked it. She was matched to a therapist online. I'm sure you've heard of it. Like the website's called BetterHelp.com, and there's like a ton of like related websites. But BetterHelp is actually really good. Not to sound like an ad, but like I've used them and they are fantastic. I feel like they're like some people have said it's hit or miss. But I feel like therapy is so like personal that there's bound to be like some room for error sometimes. But something like that, and there's a lot of like, as you said, like meditation, peace, like peaceful like apps now. So there's definitely a lot of progress. It's really convenient now. Like telehealth in general is really convenient. So I'm really excited about that. What Anthea's doing is really
Yeah,
cool as well.
definitely. Yeah, it's cool to have like these apps, like like I think I tried it. I think I asked you about it like maybe 2 years ago. I was like super stressed with everything. And sometimes people are hesitant to use it because they think, oh, I'm like talking to a stranger on the phone. Can I trust them? Like, what would you say to the people who like need to seek help? Like, what mindset should they try to have when they think they're ready to look for help?
So that's exactly how I was thinking about it. I was like this person doesn't know me at all. And like I quickly realized that's a plus. Like they're a complete like third party to your life, so they're not involved in whatever you're feeling. They're not involved in whatever like interpersonal problems or like personal problems you have. So that is kind of comforting, at least to me, that they are completely like in a circle that's not in your life, so they're able to objectively give you advice. And that's why you choose like a reputable platform. So at least you know like they're trained therapists. They're also a third party, and they're here to help. One thing I've got out of therapy is like you only get as much as you put in. So like it really does benefit you to try to be a bit more vulnerable. Like it's definitely hard. Like initially I was a little hesitant to do it, but like the more you go, the more comfortable you get with your therapist. I think that's like it's like building a friendship. Like it's just as long as you feel comfortable. It
Yes.
takes time, but like the first step is hard.
Yeah,
I definitely
definitely.
agree.
Anthea, have you tried therapy before, or any sort of similar courses?
Yeah, I actually been working with a sports psych since eighth grade, just because um, when I was in eighth grade, I had a really hard time performing well in my races. I just had like performance anxiety, and ever since I started working with her, I just continued. You actually know her, like Karen from
Oh,
Inner
yes,
Edge,
she
I
was one
think.
of our guests a
Yeah,
few episodes ago. Yes.
yeah, and like after, I think like performance anxiety is definitely something that comes and goes. But other than that, I think sports psych is really useful in supporting me to grow as an athlete and a person, because I think there's so many things um, that you can analyze that you don't really would if you didn't like take the time to kind of think over what you've done and what
I
you're
see.
doing.
And does that performance also, like when you talk to Karen or a sports psychologist, do you guys also talk about like um, non-athlete performance, or is it just really focused on like performing in the water?
We also do talk a lot about on swimming stuff, just because I think being an athlete, there are so many things that go on outside of your sport that can affect what goes on in the water. So it's very like holistic. I'd say like we focus on and like anything and everything that can relate to, I guess, like performance and just general well being.
Great. Yes, because it's all interconnected, as we all know. It's not one thing or the other. When they have a saying, like when you're a happy swimmer, you're a fast swimmer. So definitely, we can't just talk about like the performance. We have to talk more holistically about everything. Yeah, that's amazing. I personally have seen one sports psychologist when I was in college, but I think as Peter said, I might not have had like such an open mindset about it. So I was like kind of skeptical, and you really have to believe it in order to really get stuff out of it. And like,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, definitely. Well, okay, well, that's really cool. Um, and then I want to know, like, you guys have like 1 or 2 more years in college, like, um, and now you're back in Hong Kong. What is something that you can like transfer to these our Hong Kong audience about what you've learned so far on like your life, on balancing? Um, mental health, like any main takeaways that you can share with our audience?
Okay, so I know in like Hong Kong or like Asian culture in general, there's such a push to be successful really early on. So like when you're like you can see like the 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds in Hong Kong, and I look at the times they're
They
so
are
now, and I'm
so
like,
fast.
in my back in my days, incredibly fast, and I'm like, that's good. The sport is always evolving, but there should never be, if any parents are watching this, never push your kids too early, because I think sport is like a marathon. You know, you like the I think the trademark of like a successful career is like a long career. I don't think it's a extreme like short-lived career. I feel like it's much better to play the long game. That's why I thank my parents for like they were never pushy about me swimming. They're like, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. Like you, but I somehow I like the sport enough to do it until like this day. We're in 2023 and I'm still
You're
swimming.
still so young. Come
So
on.
there's that. No, exactly. I feel like I took 3 years off from swimming because of the military and COVID. So like I think that was when I realized that I wanted to do it. So don't push your kids too early, and don't worry if you're a late bloomer. Like I really only hit my stride when I was like 17. Like my last year of swimming in Hong Kong was by far my best year, and I think that was really good. And also, one more thing is like just don't take things too seriously. It's a sport. At the end of the day, like it's not. Even if you're a professional athlete, it's not supposed to be all consuming. It's part of your identity, but especially as a student athlete, it's not your whole identity. And I think that's like a transition that slowly I'm making. It's like I love this sport, but I have a year left. There's only so much I can do with it. So just enjoy the sport and take it as it is. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and don't make it your everything, because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's
I
part
love
of
your
life.
positive outlook on this. It's so uplifting. Amazing. Okay, thank you, Peter. Anthea, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree very much, and I think because Hong Kong's, I guess like lifestyle is very fast paced. Everyone's always trying to go and get to the next thing. Like you always think about like what roles you're playing as like a parent, a teacher, like as like for us like as a student athlete, and then also as like a like oh, wait, I was gonna say grandparent, but I'm not a grandparent. A grandkid. As a grandkid and a daughter, like we have so many different roles that we're playing, and it's so easy to get caught up in these roles and forget that the very basic role that we play at the, I guess, like entry level is being human, and that's something we neglect a lot. So just remember that, like when life gets busy, like we all have so many tasks to do, you always have to take time and step back and take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of the human side of you first, you're not really able to perform in the other parts of your life. um, and I guess like adding on to that, no 2 days are ever the same. I think swimming wise, I get really frustrated when I feel amazing in the water one day and then I feel
Yeah.
terrible in the water the next day. But my takeaway from that is like no 2 days are ever going to be the same, and that's okay. And if you resist the fact that it's not, if you resist the fact that it's different, then you're never going to be able to let go of the things you're supposed to learn from, I guess, like bad days. But in like theoretically, there's never going to be bad days because you're always going to be learning something, even if it's not like fun or not the day you want. I'm not, but like, yeah, just I guess like just try to move on from days where you feel like um, things aren't going well, and take what you learn from that day and go into the next day as like a new opportunity, I
Wow.
guess.
I
Yeah.
feel so like empowered and like inspired just by you saying that, like not like completely genuinely. It feels so good to hear what you said, like from you guys' perspective. Like you guys are still very young, but the maturity and the positivity that you guys have are very important in this world. And thank you so much for sharing all of this because it's just so amazing. um, so do you guys have anything else to add? Anything you want to talk about in addition to everything we said?
No, I just think swimming is such a taxing sport. Like the more you think about it, like we're always sleep deprived, we're always tired. We have like we're always like some level, like our skin's always dry, we're always hungry, we're always like cranky. So that's why it's like if you're physically so tired, like what you can do is like take care of your mental health. And I think mental health in swimmers, like it's so important because this sport is so hard. We do it for so many years, like for so long, and it's definitely I think this is such a good initiative. When I saw you guys started this, I was like, wow, this is like what I think Hong Kong swimming needs, especially because it's such an pressure cooker here.
Definitely. That's why I left. I'm kidding.
I agree. I feel that. That's why I left as well.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, thank you so much again for being here today, and we will see all of you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye.